My name is Richard Tugume Tuliaikayo. I define myself as a practitioner at the confluence of 5 elements. The first element is agriculture, more specifically the farming component of agriculture. The second of those elements is business. The third one is finance. The fourth one is innovation. And the fifth one is philosophy. And having said that, I practice those 5 things in a number of ways. The first thing, as already mentioned, I am the founder and CEO of a ranching business called Jackie Davis Farming World. I'm also the founder and CEO of a venture capital fund called Innovation Ventures Fund Limited. I am also the country director and East African Investment Director of a Germany-based impact investment fund called Yunus Social Business Foundation, Uganda. And I am also the founder and CEO of our philosophy fund, or actual association called the Practitioners of Contemporary Philosophy. I guess the question might arise very quickly to ask, how do I do all these many things at the same time? But my answer is very simple. I also ask myself how we're able to have 5 senses at the same time. How could we listen, hear, see, smell, feel, do all these things at the same time? So that is how I kind of manage it. But having said that, I was told to share a story about my farming experience and financing. And now, talking philosophically, it's not even more of a story, it is a sharing of an accident. Because it's commonly said that when something happens the first time, it's an accident, the second time it's an incident, the third time it is a habit. But in the case of Uganda, I would want to say that the farming sector in this country has been traditionally left to what society has previously deemed as the failures. When you are lucky to get an education, a formal education, and you go to school, you get a job, you end up in the corporate sector. If you are a little luckier, or less luckier, you end up in the business sector. And if you're very unfortunate, you have no options, then you end up farming. Actually, to the extent that even if being a farmer is an abuse in this country, you've heard of the word mulimi, mulimi. You are a failure. You go and dig, you go and rear the ducks, or whatever it is. So that is how the farming has been taken. So the farming stories in this country, I like to call them an aggregation of a number of accidents. We all go and have our different accidents, and we come in one room to talk about how the various accidents have played out. So I'm here to talk about farming. But that's how I see it, very philosophically in that sense, about the accident. So my farming accident happened about 11 years ago, actually 12 to be exact. And what happens is that also by accident, I happened to be born in a farming family. So in 2007, I happened to have a few savings and decided to say, I can begin a goat project. And of course, as is tradition, there is no one-stop shop to learn many of these things. And so, I put a few pennies together, went to a goat market in Changwanzi. I'm talking about Changwanzi, 134 kilometers from here, 2.5 hours from Kampala as well. And decided to put up a goat pen, put up a chain link fence around it, and bought my first maybe 12, 15 goats, hired my first herdsman, and gave it my blessings. A month or 2 into the project, my husband tells me, I think you need to buy 1 cow because, I need to drink some milk as the herdsman. And also, some of the goats that give birth don't have enough milk, others are bad mothers, so they need some supplementary milk from the cow. So I then got into the cow accident by default. So I bought my first cow, mid-2007, and the journey started. We began. Before I knew it, the numbers began growing. Along the way, obviously, because of diversifying risk, like we've been told, I decided to go into a number of other things. So, I put on the sheep, the chicken, I went into rabbits, turkeys, apiary. I have done many, many things, again by accident. But that's a creative word in my presentation. And in those accidents, I have learned many things that are never taught in any school. And what I've learned is that 10 years down the road, only 2 of those many accidents were bankable. And that was bull fattening and matoke growing. By 10 years, I had enough, I had built enough numbers, I'm talking about a few hundreds here, to approach the bank and begin talking, some bank language. Unfortunately, I found that the banks have never understood agricultural financing. So I first went for the ACF guys who say they are cheap and they understand these things. And the first thing I was told was that, you see, you've got to first of all convince us that if you have 100 bulls on your farm, there is a market. And that the only way you can convince us is to bring us a contract, a piece of paper saying that I will take them at a given price. And I told him that's ridiculous. Because one of the things I have learned in those 10 years is that an animal for meat has a ready market at any time and hour of the day. I have sold animals on my phone, even when I've been, tens of thousands of kilometers away from my home. But the bankers didn't understand that. The second thing they told me is that they asked me for the cash cycle, and I deal with an 18 months cash cycle in my business. I buy these winner bulls, 5-6 months old, and then offload them 18 months later on a free range system. And they told me even when I take the facility, I must have a monthly interest payment, like the Chikubo guy who trades in sugar and cigarettes and all these things. And so I hung up on them and just told them to go to hell. And I decided to say, I'll do my own thing. So then I tried to put on my immigration hat of the 5 process I talked about. I looked for my immigration hat and put it on. So I decided to found my own and first venture capital fund that focuses on agriculture. And the name, for all convenience, was called Innovation Ventures Fund. I opened up, it's a family-based fund with my wife and 3 children as shareholders. And then we went out pitching. We said we shall look for individuals and savings clubs who can believe in us. So we set up a nice profile, registered the business, opened the account, and we were ready to go. This was October of 2017. And so I went out pitching. I met a number of savings clubs. They have a lot of money. If you're not aware, a study was done about 2 years ago by a friend of mine who was in the Capital Markets Authority in charge of research and development. And they found that the savings clubs at the time, this was about 2015, had a whopping 36 billion UGX sitting in commercial banks undeployed because they didn't know what to do with it. So yes, I knew that was an opportunity. Even if I could get, a very tiny percent of that, I would be ready to go. So I began pitching. I first pitched to some guys called ICAO. ICAO is called, it's an association that brings together the savings clubs of the country. And they sit in the Ministry of Finance boardroom every last Thursday of the month. So I made my pitch there. I got several hand claps. But, very few responses. People were very edgy about the whole thing. But my pitch was very simple. I said I have a business. I've been doing this for the last 10 years, so I've de-risked it to a large extent. Actually, I had done a few things. One, I had approached the insurance companies. I think we're going to be having one of them talking today. And we became the first beef farm in this country that had insured beef animals, under comprehensive risk to look disease and theft. And what I had done was that I decided to use a new system where I would insure animals in batches based on investors. So if you came and gave me 20 million shillings, I would then break that down into the number of animals that fit into that value loaded up with interest. And then I would take out an insurance policy for that number of animals. Let's assume there are 23 of them, and then I'll give you that insurance policy as like insurance cover for your animals, so that it can act like security. And so, I was using that as my main catch point. I also had a very attractive interest rate for the early movers. I had put it up at 30% per year. And so it took me the first 2 months, and I got my first 2 investors, one savings club and one individual, who put in the first 50 million and 10 million shillings. That was our first big break. We since went on to raise 525 million in the next 4 months after that. We capped at that point, and then worked to begin proving concept at that point. And I want to report that the first 18-month cycle has already gone round, April 2019, and we paid the first investors that came in, the first 10 and first 50, and we are now on the brink of securing our first 1 billion shilling single investment from one institutional investor. That's next month. And having said that, I would like to say that what does the future look like for us in terms of pushing innovation and frontiers forward? We would like to see a few things happen. We are pushing for innovation in which we want to found the first animal stock exchange, where we are going to profile all our animals on the farm and have a title per animal, just like you have your logbook for your car. We shall have like a logbook for the animal with all the specs, the age, the breed, and all the parameters involved. And then we can have an electronic platform where we float, the animals on the exchange, and then you can have buyers coming in to buy them electronically as they actually physically exist, as an innovation to push the industry forward. 2, we are also going to be pushing for having these, what I would like to call titles for these animals, also become like a medium, like a financial instrument. But when you're an investor in my business, and you have this insurance policy covering your batch of animals, you don't have to sit for 18 months doing nothing or waiting for a maturity of investment. You could actually, midstream of the investment, use it as an instrument to leverage further financing for yourself. Like take it to a bank and have it discounted, or use it for security to leverage more financing for something else, an emergency, and things like that. And that's where we shall need some government support to operationalize the legality around it. And then, of course, we are looking at using this model as a blueprint, now the farming model and the investment model as a blueprint to expand it outside of our boundaries of the farm. Because we're only operating on 4 square miles, which can go up to 2,500 animals at scale. But we are looking at expanding to begin, thinking with tens of thousands of animals going forward. I would like to end with 2 main challenges or pleas to government through MAIF. One is to put more effort or more focus on having agricultural activities disseminated or trained or delivered with a business sense to it. And I'll give you an example. In many of these conferences I go to, I always hear ideas of complaints about what is going wrong. The bad feeds, the poor transportation of animals in these lorries, transporting meat in sacks and caveras. But people never ask themselves as to why that is happening. Is it that we are all fools? The whole country is a bunch of fools that we never see the right things? And the answer is, we are not seeing the business element. It is because the market is not yet able to pay for those things. That is a simple reason about it. Or even irrigation. People say, why are we not irrigating? Do you think that you, the government, or you, the external partners, you love my cows more than myself, or my crops and I can't irrigate them? It is because if I were to irrigate, the market can't pay for that irrigation system. I need to market growing. So if you're a good dribbler out there outside of the field, that is irrelevant. That is where the good track of transportation you're talking about is coming from. Come to the pitch, and the pitch is the market. I want to challenge the agricultural people and policy experts. Please include the business sense in all agricultural talk. That's my first plea. My second and last one, as I summarize, is that we must focus more on developing indigenous innovations. In this sense, like I said, there are many things that any farmer will tell you they are never taught in any class. In fact, I give the example that even if you have your PhD in agricultural economics or agricultural anything from Harvard or MIT or wherever the best university is, you cannot come and compete with me on my turf. It's as simple as that. There are things I have learned and known that there is no school that knows them. So let's harness indigenous innovations, let's document them, let's perfect them, let's disseminate them with a business sense. Thank you very much.